Let's get my mic opened up. Mr. Gill, we okay? So let's call to order this November 22nd, 2021 regular business meeting of the Board of School Trustees. Held in public with a start time, we'll call it close enough here, 6 o'clock. If everyone would please rise, we'll ask Mr. Hoffman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Oh, I forgot to use the fun gavel this evening, but we all know what was going on there. Item 2, Board of School Trustees Resolution of Commendation Awards. At 2.1, Crown Point High School Inkling newspaper for winning the 2021 Hoosier Star Award, Indiana High School Press Association's highest award at the IHSPA State Convention. The Inkling staff was Nolan Chase, Emily Helmuth, Noah Thomas, Rosalie Degenhart, Abigail Goodson, Keely Bernard, Samuel Brewer, Aubrey Banks, Emily Brasino, Trevor Fromm, Olivia Helmuth, Mary Marcinek, Andrew Poskell. We'll get a chance to correct these names when we do the presentation. Gillian Gadley, Hayden Coles, and the advisor, Miss Julie Elston. Item 2.2, the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce 2021 Inspiring Educator Awards. We had the overall corporation school winner, Ms. Jory Dussault from Eisenhower. Finalists, school winners, were Kristen Albrecht from Lake Street. I feel like I missed one there. Angela Hummel from MacArthur. Kathleen Zacharias, Solon Robinson. Marianne Howard, Timothy Ball. Lindsay Eastling, Winfield. Sarah Sexton, Jerry Ross, Devin Lewis, Taft Middle School. Sarah Pearson, Colonel Wheeler, and Amy Burkham from Crown Point High School. Let's see here. Okay, we've heard the Board of School Trustees Resolution Commendation Awards. Do we have a motion to approve these commendations as presented?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And now we'll present the awards. I'll come forward first with the Inklings Award, and then we'll have Mr. Angel will join me to do the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce. Still trying to figure this out with our new configuration. We used to all come forward and read the names and have everybody come through and shake hands, but I'll kind of stand in front here. Do we have our Inklings team present? Anyone here for Inklings? Why don't we come on up in front so you can get yourself into the room? Inklings certainly not unfamiliar with coming to board meetings for awards, and it's nice to see the success has continued, so congratulations, you guys. I'll read your resolution from the board here. The resolution commendation, Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend the Crown Point High School 2021 Inklings newspaper for meritorious achievement. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to the 2021 Crown Point High School Inklings for winning the 21 Hoosier Star Award, Indiana High School Press Association's highest award at the IHSPA State Convention. The Board of School Trustees publicly recognizes this achievement and renders it permanently to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity this 22nd day of November 2021. Congratulations to you guys. It might be easier instead. Well, I'll go ahead and read all the names. They still deserve to be recognized. Mary Marcinek. We had Olivia Helmuth. Abigail Godson. Is Godson correct?
Yep.
Abigail, congratulations. Gillian Gatley. Rosalie Degenhart. Hayden Coles. Emily Brasino. Samuel Brewer. And then we had Aubrey Brains and Julie Elston. Thank you for everything you've done for the students. Ms. Elston, usually we kind of maybe ask if there's anything you could share about the road and the success of the program and what you might be looking forward to in the future.
Sure. What I will share is just how incredibly proud I am of this group, because last year we reinvented so many things. Our original printer actually went out of business, and so we moved to an e-edition online and eventually printed the news magazine format. So our staff was never together, not for 1 minute, because we had students who were virtual, students who were there 2 days a week with the hybrid and everything, but so their accomplishments and kind of the reinvention during the COVID year, I think, is really amazing. And their talents and their achievements really speak for themselves. I'm very proud.
Thank you. Congratulations, you guys. All of the success that comes through the program, you're making your community proud, your school proud, and the board administration as well. Why don't you guys grab a picture of the team?
Do you have any idea how many years running we've had an award comparable to this? Quite a few.
Do I have to own up to how long I've been here? I don't have to.
And we can qualify the yearbook for the last renovation.
Right? You have it, don't you? Yes, you do.
Okay, there we go, we're good.
Thank you so much.
Would you like the other?
Mr. Marcy,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'd just like to congratulate the Inklings and both Mrs. Elston and the staff. We're really proud of the Inklings, as we've talked about here a little bit. They're sort of the standard of excellence in Indiana newspapers, school newspapers. And I think most importantly is that gives kids an opportunity, much like a team, an opportunity to get together, to bond, to work on a common goal and a common cause, to produce a great newspaper. And so it provides that space and opportunity for our kids to really grow, not only to learn journalism, journalistic excellence, but also just, again, to have a space to get together. And like I said, they form a bond for sure, much like a team would throughout a season. They do it for the whole entire school year. You could see them getting together after school in the lab, working on their articles and interviewing people. And I think the last thing I wanted to mention is the sheer professionalism that Mrs. Elston teaches the kids. Not only do they conduct themselves appropriately, but when they're interviewing people, they use the ethics and standards of professional journalists. And I think that's something that stays with our group long after they leave Crown Point High School, and no matter what walk of life that they choose to go into, even if it's not journalism. So we're really proud of the Inklings and especially all these students who put in so many long hours to create such a great publication. So thank you.
If I could have our inspiring educator finalist and winner come forward, please.
Nobody want to step in front of you.
Yeah.
Anybody here from the chamber, Crossroads Chamber? No? First off, we'd like to thank them for what they do to support the Inspiring Educators Award, and congratulations to all of you ladies on your accomplishment. Obviously, the goal is to educate our students to the best of our abilities, and Inspiring Educators nominated by Crossroads just brings you guys to the forefront of the top, so congratulations to all of you. I'll read the accommodation. Resolution of accommodation. The Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend these individuals for their meritorious achievement. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to these ladies for being named Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce finalist and overall winner, Dory Dussault, for overall corporation winner for the school year. The Board of School Trustees publicly recognizes this achievement and renders it permanently to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity dated this 22nd day of November, 2021. Just so I got schools right. Our first finalist, Kristen Albrecht from Lake Street.
Okay, are you sure?
Angela Hummel from
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Angela?
Congratulations.
Kathleen Zacharias. Victoria Robinson. Marianne Howard from Timothy Ball.
Pearson.
Read in order so I don't forget something.
Pen under there.
Devin Lewis Taft. Sarah Pearson from Colonel Wheeler.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Amy Burcham from Crown Point High School. Lindsay Eastling Winfield. And our overall winner from Eisenhower, Jory Dussault. Other than pictures? Yeah. If you guys want to squeeze in, we'll get out of the way here.
I did.
Congratulations, ladies.
We also want to thank their principals who are here tonight. Thank you guys for coming to support your teachers. Appreciate you being here.
Okay, we'll just give it a second for anyone that is trying to depart to move on. Okay, patrons' comments. Patrons registered to comment on educational issues. Over the last couple of months, what we've been doing is just go ahead and reading the guidelines for comments to anybody who is here. So some of you have heard them before, but if not, I will read through them now. So the guidelines, the board will hear patrons, legal residents of Center Township or Winfield Township wishing to comment on educational issues at a regular business meeting of the Board of School Trustees held in public. Patrons must sign the sign-up sheet provided in the back of the boardroom, which I have here, prior to the start of the meeting. When their names are called to address the board, they will move to the podium in front of the room, state their names, spell them for record-keeping purposes, state their names and addresses, and topic that they will be addressing. If patrons have prepared written statements on topic, they may present them at this time. A limit of 3 minutes is allowed for each speaker. We've been asking Mr. Angel to be our clock keeper. I believe at 30 seconds he gives you a warning. So he's not trying to interrupt you, just giving you an update on how much time you have left. The portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 20 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board, so we will keep an eye on that and determine if we need an extension. Speakers are to refrain from speaking on personnel issues and student issues. I do believe this evening, some of the topics that are on our list are they do look to be personnel issues. I think this evening, anyone who signed up, you would have been given information to refer to policy 9130, which states that public comments on personnel issues would not be allowed, and that if that was the case for you when you signed up, that we would be contacting you for further information to collect or give you the proper opportunity to be able to speak on the topic you were here for this evening. So let's start off with Beth Urim. Good evening, Beth.
Good evening. My name is Beth Urim, and I live at 12461 Pennsylvania Place, Crown Point. I had originally decided to come here to hand deliver forms to the appropriate persons to inform them of my non-consent to Crown Point Community School Corporation regarding the administering of any COVID-19 vaccinations to my son. I do have those forms notarized, and I would like to turn them over to the administration. I have copies for each individual whom I believe needs one. I understand that Crown Point Community School Corporation is currently not setting up vaccination clinics in the schools as of yet. However, I sadly feel the need to make my non-consent legally known. As I mentioned, I had only intended to turn in these forms. However, in lieu of the most recent actions by Governor Holcomb, I am here with an urgent request for this board. Last Tuesday, November 16th, I drove to Indianapolis while our legislators were in session for Organization Day. I went with a petition demanding Hoosier lawmakers use the authority given under Indiana Code 10-14-3-12 to put an immediate end to the state of emergency. Representative Kurt Nisley walked me directly to Julie Olthoff's secretary, where I hand-delivered the petition. Unfortunately, Speaker Houston did not call a vote. However, before I even made it back to Crown Point, Governor Holcomb addressed the press by stating, and I quote, "Lawmakers must pass 3 things to end COVID-19 public health emergency. In an unprecedented move, lawmakers will meet Monday, November 29th, for a one-day session to consider preliminary draft number 3651. In the synopsis of this draft, there is language that allows the Secretary of Family and Social Services to issue a waiver which is necessary to claim enhanced federal matching funds available to the Medicaid program. This allows the Secretary to issue an emergency declarations for purposes of participating in SNAP emergency allotments. My question is, what in the heck does this have to do with our public health emergency? Absolutely nothing. Indiana is either in a state of emergency or not. Holcomb's actions prove to me that he is holding Hoosiers hostage under his executive order, which has been extended 20 times. Isn't it interesting that his EO is set to expire one day after this rare announcement by Speaker Houston and Senator Bray to reconvene
30 seconds.
the lawmakers to pass legislation completely unrelated to COVID-19 before he ends the public health emergency. In closing, I am saddened by the lack of action by our legislators. They have the authority to end the state of emergency with no strings attached. It is clear Indiana is no longer under a state of emergency. At best, Holcomb's actions are tyrannical and at the very least disingenuous regarding the health of Hoosiers. My request to this board is to do what is right, be brave, and unmask our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. The next on the list is William Theodoro.
Hello, my name is Dr. William Theodoro, and I am a local physician, born and raised in Crown Point, and I'm here to speak on behalf of my daughter, who is a student at the preschool at the Learning Center over here. And I'm here today in regards to the preschool curriculum. I'll take a step back and just say that My daughter is on the spectrum and therefore is a special needs student. And we were initially referred to the Early Childhood Development Program by a psychologist. And after our daughter was evaluated by a certified special education teacher, a speech pathologist, and an occupational therapist, she was invited and accepted into the program for early childhood development. Her first year in preschool there was phenomenal. In fact, I would consider it amazing. The progress that she made was undeniable to us. We hadn't seen her make progress like that for her entire life. So we were very happy with the program and with her progress and that she was making. Due to her birthday being very close to the cutoff for her age and because of COVID, we felt she lost out on some time. And then also, you know, given her background, we felt that we wanted to give her one more year in the preschool to get her better prepared for kindergarten. As we all know, the early intervention is important for all children, but for special needs children, it is of the utmost importance. And a lot of these children, if they do get early intervention, can have very normal lives. And so we had her do another year in the preschool, and unfortunately, after she started, we very soon realized that all the progress that she had been making the year before had completely come to a halt. And in a lot of ways, she was regressing from the progress that she had made the year before. We inquired about this, and we were told that that changes were being made due to laws in Indiana, which it turns out it was not actually a law, but more of a recommendation at this time, that classrooms be combined with special needs children and regular children. And I just want to go on the record and say that I am totally for that. I think that is very important. So this year, the classes were changed, and they were changed to a ratio of 2-to-1, special needs children to regular children. Again, I'm totally for that. But unfortunately, the curriculum was completely changed. Everything about it was completely changed. There no longer are
30 seconds.
Individuals that are trained to take care of children like this running the classroom, but rather people that aren't. And also, it's a play-based system. There's actually no learning whatsoever. They're actually not allowed to teach them numbers, letters, and other basic things that all children should know. And there's also no structure whatsoever to the classroom. It's literally just playing.
It's time, sir, if you could finish up.
Okay. Okay. Oh, finish it.
I'll give you a couple
Okay.
seconds here.
Yeah. So I honestly believe that this is not ideal for any child, but particularly for my child and all other children with special needs. They really need that structure, and I don't necessarily think that just playing with very little guidance is very useful for them. We removed our child about a month ago from the 5 days a week, and she's only now going 2 days a week. We are paying for her to go to a preschool that she has shown drastic improvement over the last month since she's been there.
Sir, I'll have to cut you off there.
Yeah, okay.
We'll have to allow for another time, but
Sounds
thank you.
good. Yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
Okay.
Aliki Theodoro. Just a reminder, when you come to the phone, can you please state your address also?
Sure. Aliki Theodoro, 814 Haymarket Circle, Crown Point, Indiana. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what my husband just mentioned. Let's see. Although changes have been made to the program, and is accepted by the state, is definitely not seen as best practice. Lake Central, Valpo, and Munster School District all have licensed special education teachers in the class the entire 2.5 hours. While play-based programs can be great and effective, they are not the best learning environments for kids with special needs. This is being ran as a daycare. In fact, I've seen daycares with better curriculums than what I have seen so far this year. Everything I was told last year by her licensed special education teacher regarding what and why things were the way that they were and how they were doing things in class was beneficial to her being on the spectrum has been absolutely tossed out the window. I can provide multiple examples if need be. This is a program through a public school system that is meant to assist and provide the necessary tools for special needs students to get them ready for kindergarten and beyond. These kids are already delayed in their abilities, and not having a structured kindergarten readiness program is only hurting them, not helping them for their future. Early intervention is key, is what I'm consistently told by our therapists, physicians, and licensed teachers. If I wanted a play-based learning program, I would have sent her to a Montessori. Being on the autism spectrum, free play is not effective in her social development, one of the main reasons we decided to hold her back. Because of her social delay, there is often a breakdown in play with other children. How is her social development going to improve when it is their choice on whether or not she decides to partake in an activity? Additionally, other special needs children require more individualized help with other things such as holding a pencil, learning to write, etc. If these are not something they are doing in class, how is this helping them with kindergarten readiness? From doing my own research, the one person that is new to this program that I'm confident to assume has been the force behind this drastic change is the preschool coordinator, who also happens to be the wife of the superintendent.
Excuse me, we're not allowed to take comment on personnel and,
Okay,
I mean,
okay,
we could talk about the curriculum, educational, but
okay. Then I guess we'll have to follow this up because there's a huge conflict of interest in what's happening. And I have a pamphlet or something I can give you to provide some evidence that I have pulled together. So if I can provide you a packet, that would be,
if you have it with you, you're welcome to leave it with Ms. Green.
I will do
That
that.
would probably work out best.
Sounds good.
Aaron Pycraft, and this is in terms of resignation, so, okay, yeah, let me remind you that, as we stated earlier, those who may be speaking on this topic, we will plan to find an opportunity for you to be heard in our time as well, so.
Okay, yes, my name is Erin Pycraft, 10131 Benton Street, Crown Point. I'm a parent. My daughter's on the cross-country team. I'll do my best to keep this general. Words cannot express how devastated my daughter and our whole family is over the coaching situation, girls cross-country team. Watching our friend be so unfairly treated by the school and community we love.
Let me just stress that when you came in to sign up, it was our intentions that we knew there would be some people speaking tonight on the topic that Ms. Pycraft is here to speak on.
Dave, could I add something?
Yes.
So there's been several letters received by the school board, several emails, and I can assure you that, well, I'll speak for myself and you guys can chime in. I spent the time to read every single one of them. And they were all very similar. And so we need to address this, but we can't address personnel or student information in public. But my understanding is they will all be given an audience or a forum to state their point of views that they could otherwise do, that they cannot do publicly. Is that correct?
I will jump in right here and say yes. So tonight, when you came in, you were given a sheet of paper that had policy
9130, I believe, 9130.
9130. And what that does is it kind of lays out what the next steps will be for that. So those of you who came in and signed up for this, we've got your name and your address, so we will be able to contact you through RDS.
Are you still
to be
making-
able to set up a time to hear further what your concerns are with this situation.
How will that work if you're voting tonight to approve resignations?
We'll have to move forward with our meeting and.
We'll move forward, and if you stick around, you'll find out where that goes.
I would say one of the options one of the options, we're talking to the individual at the podium, please, is that the board can look at delaying that until a later board meeting. And
That's all we were here to ask.
correct. And
It
so
be investigated fairly before a vote was made.
so the opportunity to be heard will be present before the board, if they so choose, takes that opportunity and moves forward with that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So while we go, instead of me trying to guess who might be here to speak on what topic, I'll continue to read out the names, and please just, raise your hand and defer if you were intending to discuss something we just said we'll take care of later, okay? And Ellie Pycraft, Unjin Choi. Ms. Choi, please come to the podium and state your name and address?
My name is Engin Choi, and 1411 Brookside Drive, Munster, Indiana. And my daughter is going to school here, so I have right to say as a mom. Can you start? Thank you for finally providing me with additional access to RDS. I was able to review the information my ex-husband provided the school registration, as I requested a copy over a year and a half, which was denied. After review, it is clear that the information was erroneous. My ex put down he has a full custody, he has emergency contact, and my daughter does not live with me, which is not. This is an example of the reason the parallel parenting in divorce, because the information he provided is obscured. I can presume that this document from the registration is a foundation for the disparaging treatment I was received as a parent for my daughter from the Crown Point school system, including school's unilateral decision with her father. This clearly shows how he has been misleading the school as his position of DCS. Moving forward, I will anticipate these changes would be implemented. I will be treated equally, as my name is primary emergency contact as well as primary address. We have equal custody. He does not have a primary custody, and our daughter has 50% at his parents' home, Crown Point, and 50% at my home, Munster, as a parenting time. I have requested to review the second grade curriculum a month ago. My request is denied. According to the Parents' Bill of Rights, parents can review the curriculum. Per Crown Point School respond, parents' assessment is removed by school board. Can you explain, please, this? I did not have a response yet. It is violate Parents' Bill of Rights and State Law, Indiana Code 51431. High Ability Program is supported by the grant funds from the Indiana Department of Education, which mandates in grade K through 12. At Crown Point School, High Ability Program does not start until 4th grade, which is not standard like other school districts and Indiana Department of Education. Also, I would like to ask for the information Parents Committee meeting for High Ability Program Crown Point, because it is not at the Crown Point website. Thank you.
And Mike Vandergast?
Yes, I was here to speak on the subject of resume as well, and I guess I'm just curious if the board is able to provide.
You gotta come to the mic.
Sure, yeah.
Just curious to, I'm sorry, Mike Vandergast, 632 Davis Circle, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I understand what you had, the instructions you had given us regarding resignations. I was not aware of that requirement before I arrived tonight, unfortunately, but I guess I'm curious as to when, what, is this a matter of this is a public forum and that's why you do not want to speak about resignations in this forum? And if that's the case, do we get an opportunity to address the board in a private session? Is that where you foresee this going?
But given the circumstances this evening, I think this is worth kind of like explaining that, this is definitely just a comment opportunity on educational issues. So in any board meeting in the past, since I've been a board member, whatever, our policy is just to listen to the comments. We don't have we don't interact, discuss.
Understood.
We'll take everything into consideration, and then maybe in some cases, at the tail end of a meeting, we'll have a little discussion about things that were brought forward in the public comment session, or possibly the next meeting will come up. But generally, your comments are made, and you would look for a follow-up with, a cabinet member, administrator, or superintendent to get to where you need to go with your information.
I understand your point. I guess I just want to make sure our voices are heard. We want the rest of the community to hear what it is we have to say. And I want to make sure that we don't have that opportunity taken from us.
Right, so I'd say after this, we won't go back and forth any further this evening, but want to echo Mr. Babjak's comments that the emails have came through, and we are going to have further steps in this meeting tonight that'll probably be a topic of discussion that we'll, your information has been heard, your emails have been heard, and your comment this evening, all those comments that you want to be heard, we're going to set up an opportunity at a later time.
Okay. I just want to make sure, I think shining a light on this subject is important, just to make sure things are done in an appropriately transparent fashion. Thank you for your.
Okay.
Let me comment on it, David.
Let's,
One of the primary issues involving personnel issues is privacy concerns, and there are federal laws that dictate what can and can't be discussed, and we are bound by those. We're not gonna have a trial here to discuss the merits of any personnel issue. We're not gonna have a back and forth forum to hear the good and the bad. You've communicated to us, many of you by email. Anybody who wishes to may communicate by email. There's an opportunity to be heard by administrators. That will all be taken into consideration if we get to that point, and that'll be the end of it. We're not gonna give reasons why we did what we did. We're not gonna give an explanation of what's transpired to this date, because we're not permitted to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. All right, Michaela Vandergast? Okay, thank you. Is it Gabrielle Adanovich?
My name is Gabrielle Adamovich. I live at 8297 Doubletree Drive, Crown Point, Indiana. I am a lifetime member of Crown Point. I graduated with a few of you here on this board, and I know all of your reputations keep you in these positions. And I know as a former educator myself, my reputation was something I held in the highest degree. I know this topic is not being further discussed, but when you're trying to stay in education, your reputation is everything. Even more so than your skill, your degree. A defamation of character can take you out of the position that you've worked so hard to build your whole life. So I'm very grateful to you for reading our emails. And I do hope that this man's character is judged fairly on the totality of his work. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we probably met the clock by now, right? Do we have a motion from the board to extend this public comment? We've exceeded our 20 minutes.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Babjack and second by Mr. Angel. If I'm looking at this correctly, we have, it looks like we should extend it 15 potential minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Can we maybe do a count of the people that were wanting to speak that, on that same topic, so we can make that part of the record, the number of people that were here to speak?
Yeah, we have,
Or just by a show, we could do it by a show of hands? Or go by the list?
And then we'll just re-extend it.
yeah, I think we have 6 names left on the sheet, so this should cover.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
15 minutes should cover everyone's opportunity to speak that needs it.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think we may have done that already. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We'll extend the public comment session by 15 minutes. Next, Santafano.
My name is Nick Santos Stefano. I live at 3099 West 136th Avenue. I assume you all received the legal notices that I and other parents have sent. These notices are not intended to be legal threats or the beginning of lawsuits. These notices were intended to educate you on our constitutional rights. Our country is set up in a way that our government gets its power from the people. Our government cannot invent authority beyond what we, the people, delegate to it in our state and federal constitutions. Our government's job is to secure the people's individual rights. For example, with masking, if I don't have the right or power to demand or force another person to wear a mask, then the government does not have that power either. I realize the state has directed you that if you have an optional mask policy, you're required to quarantine healthy kids, and if you don't, they have threatened you with fines and possible jail time. I see no proof of those, or no proof that those are anything but empty threats to scare you into compliance. Over the last year, our state and federal governments have overreached and tried to do many things beyond its power. Our commander-in-chief is making his main way of accomplishing things, but that doesn't make it right or mean that we have to comply. I have followed the governor's order through the Indiana General Codes sections, and I don't believe that the school has the authority to quarantine healthy kids. I think that the health department is requiring you to do something that is unconstitutional, and you should resist it. I searched the entire Indiana General Assembly for anything that had to do with quarantining and found nothing that gave anyone power to quarantine healthy people without a court order from the health department. The only exception I saw was a special 72-hour period the health department can use while acquiring a court order. I even read a section that said that animal control needs a court order to quarantine someone's dog if they're expected of having rabies. So were you to think that a dog in the state of Indiana have more constitutional rights and are given more due process than our children? I believe Lowell has figured this out, and that is why they designed their COVID policy around. This is directly from Lowell's COVID policy. Persons of close contacts within 3 feet for 15 minutes will be informed in addition to parents of children identified as close contacts. They will not be required to quarantine, but will be reported to the Indiana Department of Health. They are not quarantining healthy kids, but instead giving those close contact info to the health department, so if the health department chooses, they can get a court order and do the quarantining. I ask you to please consider going with an optional mask policy, and I ask you to please push back on the state health department when it comes to quarantining. I truly believe you don't have the authority to quarantine, and you should pass that responsibility back onto the health department. Thanks for your time.
Riley Listina.
Hi, I'm Ryan Lucina, 12866 Massachusetts Street, and I'd just like to speak about the cross-country team, not at all about the resignation. Okay. I'm a sophomore student, a track athlete, and a cross-country athlete at Crown Point High School. I'd like to start out with my favorite quote, which is by Winnie the Pooh. It reads, "How lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard?" This simple phrase completely sums up my team and I's entire 2021 cross-country season. This season, our entire team got very close. Walking into practice every day, I was completely surrounded by all of my best friends, which came as a shock to me, as this was my first year participating in cross-country. After a month or two of summer conditioning, these girls felt like my family. The team would have so much fun together every single day, no matter how hard our workout was. I could literally be having the worst day of my life, but when I would go to practice, my team would entirely turn it around. From talking to my upperclassmen teammates, I have heard that the team dynamic was never like this before. Unlike most of the high school's teams, we were never pitted against our own teammates. Instead, we were to encourage each other no matter what. This resulted in our very close and loving team dynamic. Everything else I have to say is personnel related, so I'd like to defer my time.
Thank you. Tom Lucina.
Thank you. My name is Tommy Listina, 12866 Massachusetts Street. I'm a lifelong Crown Point resident. I would like to speak to you very generally about the topic of protecting our students. Thank you for letting me speak to you tonight. I do not take this privilege lightly, and I will not waste your time. First, I want to thank the Board of Trustees, and I want to thank Crown Point High School for protecting our young adults. I cannot express to you how much it means to me that I can send my daughter to such an incredible institution, knowing full well that her protection is your absolute #1 priority. Thank you for what you do every single day. Now, I would also like to deliver a challenge to the Board of Trustees and to Crown Point High School. As you continue to focus on protecting our students as your first priority, please consider narrowing the gap between first and second place. Let's bring the teachers and coaches closer into a very much less distant second place. I beg you, if you find yourself in a situation where there is an excellent teacher or an excellent coach who is seemingly being pushed out because of an accusation that very well might be baseless, I beg you to explore further. I beg you to ask questions. Go far beyond erring on the side of caution. Students, teachers, coaches, all deserve this. I beg you, continue protecting our students first, but please also increase the level of protection for our teachers and coaches who stand in lockstep with
Mr.
you,
Listina.
protecting those students. And I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Miller.
Hello, Sarah Miller, 6224 West 136th Avenue in Cedar Lake. It's cold in here is my first comment. So, I know you guys are going to be talking about COVID policy later, and I wasn't gonna speak, but just in case, I'm just going to speak my piece again. I believe all of you guys are decent guys, but I don't think the governor is decent, or the commissioner at the health department. So, and I'm not happy with the complacency where parents' concerns haven't really been addressed to this point. So I'm hoping they are tonight. Government officials are put in place to protect the rights of the citizen body. Those rights include the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, freedom of religion, and the exercise of rights of conscience. And under the 14th Amendment, we as parents have the fundamental right to make all decisions, including medical, for our minor children. It is up to us to weigh the risk versus benefit, and we certainly care about our kids more than the state. I want this board to return to mask optional, everyone have the option, but not to discriminate against the unvaccinated, as the health department is in the habit of doing. The Indiana Constitution, Article 1, Section 23, says the General Assembly shall not grant to any citizen or class of citizens privileges or immunities which upon the same term shall not equally belong to all citizens. And the Constitution has been mocked a lot in recent years, but it is listed as the highest authority in the hierarchy of law, Indiana Code 1-1-2-1. And this is where we derive our freedoms. So those who mock it must not like those freedoms. When you sought the positions you hold, you sought leadership, and I'm asking you to lead with integrity. If you are not willing to lead, I would ask you to resign, but I'm not hoping that we have to go that route. And then lastly, in regards to the action item 5.2, that's on the agenda, I'm hoping you guys don't accept any funds that come with strings attached. Thank you.
Luke Tricka.
Luke Tricka, 3826 West 106th Lane, Crown Point.
Luke, before you start, could you just move the mic down a little bit? It should come, there you go. Thank you. You're good.
I think masks are stupid. You know, some of my friends that I've known for about a year and a half have never gotten to see my face, so. But I'm new here and I've never seen some of my friends smile, ever. I hope that this can change your minds about masks, which are proven to do nothing in COVID vaccines. I know many people that have gotten very sick after the vaccine. Thank you.
So I believe this one is Tom Christoph. I can't see the, yes, Tom Christoph.
See, I feel stupid because everyone else here is talking about real important things, and this kid is more confident than I've ever been. The only thing that I wanted... Oh, I'm sorry, 3784 Kingsway Drive. There are a couple of process-based comments that I wanted to make, and some of them I think apply here. The first is when and how you have public comment periods. You have one at the beginning of the meeting, and that's fine. It gives everyone a chance to... sorry, somebody was texting me as I'm trying to read this damn thing. It gives everyone a chance to speak prior to the deliberations. It gives everyone a chance to give you their impressions. However, without a separate comment period at the end, even if a shortened version, there's no opportunity for you to hear feedback about your deliberative process. I heard you talk and say to somebody, we're going to make a decision or we're going to vote on something during this meeting. but at the end of the meeting, they don't get a chance to tell you either you did well or there was things that you didn't consider and that you should have considered. And so without that second feedback comment, they have to wait now an entire month just to give any type of feedback. The second part that I wanted to talk about is giving names and addresses. I don't know whether that's a state law, whether that's a county rule, or whether that's just in your bylaws. I looked at your bylaws and it looked like it might just be your bylaws. So if that is something that you have the power to change, I know that there have been people who have not wanted to give any type of comments because of this issue. So like I said, if it's something that you have the power to change or at least influence, there might be some value in that. And then the third is just generally about bylaws. I heard a gentleman say that they wanted to give comment. They wanted you to hear the comment. But I also heard that you can't discuss these personnel issues. You can't discuss it. That's fine. But if your bylaws say we can't even hear somebody talk about this issue, and you're not having a discussion, you're just outright, your bylaws say you can't hear that, then that's a problem with the bylaws. You should be able to hear that, even if you can't talk back to the person. Thank you.
That's it. Okay, thank you, everybody, for their comments this evening. I'm sure we, as a board, all have some thoughts that we could, put.
Let me
Yes.
give one point of clarification. Your middle point there about giving the name and the address. Wanting to speak. We had a problem a few years ago when we did a survey, and we were getting responses from California. So it has been a minor problem in that respect, but it has the potential to become a greater problem.
Okay, let's close the patrons' comments section of the meeting for this evening and move to the consent agenda. Dr. Terrell.
Good evening. For your consideration this evening, our consent agenda, we have the executive session minutes and the regular business meeting minutes from October 25th. We also have the appointment to the Crown Point Library Trustees, reappointment of Marshall Anderson for a 4-year term, reoccurrent grant to approve and receive the Title II-A, a reoccurrent grant for Title IV-A, the reoccurrent grant to approve for Indiana Prime Math Transition Course Grant, the personnel agenda, and then the voucher registered checks as listed.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. So you've heard the consent agenda as presented by Dr. Terrell. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I'll move to accept the consent agenda as presented with the exception to remove item G11 from the personnel report and defer that to a later meeting.
So we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, or no, I'm sorry, how about questions or comments on the consent agenda? Any discussion or comments for the consent agenda before we move for a vote?
Mr. Hardman, I believe, would probably be able to answer these. Items 3, 4, and 5, it appears that are some of those new grants where we've been receiving those annually.
They are, we've had Title II and Title
Yes.
IV is an annual grant. Prime Math is, we've had we've approved 3 of those grants.
Okay.
The training of a teacher for this Prime Math course.
And funds are comparable to prior years?
Yes.
Thank you.
while we're having some discussions this evening, I just wanted to mention that, the obstacles as a board, with the open door law, that we're not allowed to have these votes outside of a public meeting. Any vote on any decision takes place in this room. So it's one of the challenges when an agenda comes out, can't prearrange decisions or have votes amongst us without being, in the public forum. So, as, information comes to us, we, just like someone else mentioned earlier, we have to wait month to month unless we have special sections and executive sessions to get together to actually form a vote and agree. So Mr. Hoffman, thank you for the motion with the removal of the item that you listed.
I want to make sure that addendum's then in the record prior to the final vote.
It is.
Okay.
Any other comments? If not, all those in favor signify by.
I have one comment. Is
Yes.
there, that's as much detail as we can give?
Well, I think that,
I'm just
I
curious
think the
if it has to be
conversation,
as-
I think the conversation that we could appropriately have right now, and anyone please interrupt us if we are out of line. But as a board, we're deciding to defer an item in our personnel agenda.
So one of the items that, in the personnel agenda, had a high level of interest tonight, and that is the one that we are deferring to another date.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And we have action items this evening. Item 5.1, Dr. Terrell.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening, we have the Crown Point School Corporation COVID protocols. Guidelines, is my recommendation for the board, that guidelines beginning December 6th, 2021. There's several items here, and I'm going to read through all of them, and then we can have discussion about them. The first one is mask will be optional in all of our buildings and facilities. Second one, if the positive number of cases in any building rises above 2% of the building's population, including students and staff, everyone in the building will be required to wear masks for 14 days. Next bullet point, individuals who test positive for COVID must quarantine. Next bullet point, close contacts will be those identified using the 3-foot measure. Sub-bullet points underneath this, individuals who are identified as close contacts will be contacted by school personnel. Next sub-bullet point, individuals who are identified as close contacts will not be required to quarantine if they do not have symptoms, but should monitor their symptoms for 14 days. Next sub-bullet point, if an individual identified as a close contact becomes symptomatic, they should not attend school, and they should notify the school and will be required to quarantine. Next main bullet point, mask will continue to be required on school buses per federal mandate. We will continue to monitor our own data and compare it to other indicators in our community and our county. It is my recommendation that the School Board of Trustees approve the listed guidelines beginning December 6th, 2021.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. You've heard the recommendation to approve the COVID protocol guidelines as listed beginning on December 6th, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second?
Moved by Mr. Babjack and second by Mr. Angel. I'm assuming we want to have some questions or comments for Dr. Terrell on this recommendation.
I'll start. What I like about it is there's some consideration and thought put into what's going on in individual buildings, so I can appreciate that. That makes sense to me. Also, should things become more difficult in those buildings, then there is a contingency plan for that. So I appreciate the amount of thought that you guys put into this to making it a little bit more custom as opposed to a blanket approach across the whole school corporation. And I think now is the time to give this a try. So the December 6th deadline is probably good timing. It allows the parents that choose to get their children vaccinated to do so, offering them, if that's the protection that they want to offer their kids, and they'll have the opportunity to do that.
Tom, you got anything?
Go ahead.
So just to give you an idea, currently in our school corporation, before I get to that, let me state, you know, haven't been able to comment at meetings, and some of you, that's been frustrating. Well, now that it's an action item, we can comment. So we do take into regard everything that was being said at the meetings. But personally, not two things. When you bring up policy and law, wonderful. Medical expertise, I love that. But I would just ask in the future, when you bring information such as comparing to us to a school corporation of Lowell or Griffith, you put apples to apples. Griffith has a total of 2,100 kids total in their entire corporation. Lowell, 3,100. Our high school loans got 2,900. So when maybe you see my expressions, because I'm not one that holds back, and you see me rolling my eyes, that's why. Because you cannot compare a school corporation that we have one building when you're trying to put things in perspective of how we're trying to keep your kids safe and continue the educating process. So that's all I ask, but I do greatly appreciate everything that's been said the last 3 meetings. We do listen, we do read emails, as Mr. Babjak has mentioned, but I just want to make sure that in the future, when there's something that there might be a disagreement or another remark that needs to be made, just please try to stay to facts and things that actually compare Crown Point and our situation, like a Hamilton Southeast or somewhere down that has the same type of enrollment as us, is all I ask. That's all I have. And then I want to get to these numbers. So currently, with that 2% rule per school, Crown Point High School currently 3 positive cases. Taft 7, Wheeler 2, Eisenhower 9, Jerry Ross 10, which means you'd be just a couple cases away from going to the 14-day mask mandate. Lake Street 2, MacArthur 2, Solon 3, Timothy Ball 10, again, same situation. Winfield 4, Learning Center 0, total right now of 47 students and 6 staff. So obviously now with the change starting on December 6th, if we go to a vote of approval, these things will be considered when those decisions are being made and changes might need to be taking place. That's all I have.
Thanks. With Dr. Terrell, as Mr. Angel mentioned, that brings a question to me. So let's say a school corporation bumps into 2%, and they start there. So a notification is going to go out to the corporation or to the families of that school that they will be in mask for 14 days. When does that? How do we? I'm sure some of this hasn't been thought out yet because it has to be be in the moment of the game to be able to figure this out. But now, Monday you have 2.2%, and Wednesday you have 2.5%, and Friday it's those cases. Do they roll for 14 days? I guess that's the right way to say it. Does each case? So case 1 will roll for 14 days, and then they drop off by day that they drop off.
So actually, we did spend time working on this with that scenario. And what we're looking at is the initial, when we hit that mark where we get to the point where we're at 2% within a school population, will trigger the 14 days. We will continue to monitor what's happening within that building to see if the cases are increasing, declining, where we're at with that. Part of that is going to be a little bit tricky because if you continue to add on and without those rolling off, and so we'll be working through that to see what will give us the best read on what is taking place within that building itself.
So it would be safe to say that case 1 should drop off after
Correct.
14 days as well.
Right.
I don't know, maybe or maybe not Mr. Angel's intentions with those numbers, but I look at that as a pretty hard and fast stop for, the numbers that he read have been fairly consistent for the last 2 months. They're a little bit higher now than, they may have been 3-4 weeks ago, but I think it gives me a peace of mind in making a vote on this that we're not far away from this trigger. And I'm not saying we want to get there and I want to, but if you're concerned, if you're worried about an aggressive nature of a potential COVID policy plan, that governor or that stop is not far away for those that want to be in mask to feel the protection of the mask at that level. Something else I wanted to.
David, if I may comment
Yes,
on that
please.
before you move on. So one of the things that, as we look at the color-coded map around the state that the state has used for the last several months, when they look at the different things that determine that, one of them is the 7-day positivity rate, and we're not saying that what we're looking at is the same as the positivity rate that the state is using for counties. But with the percentages they're giving at, Blue is the best color a county can be, and that's 5%. So we're looking at 2 is where we have set in a trigger. So if our county had 2%, everybody would think that was the greatest thing that we had accomplished that. So we're saying that that's the mark where now we're gonna go back into being a little bit more cautious. Again, debating whether or not the masks are effective or not, that's not the point. It's putting something in that can kind of be a stopgap as a measuring stick for us.
I had the quote, the period there. Well, just something, this isn't neither here nor there on the policy this evening, but I want to just hope and stress that our building leaders are keeping an eye on bullying. It's come up on the streets and in the community. I've been, we hear about it and it's existed for our entire lives, but I think in this case, there should be kind of a zero tolerance policy for, a bullying of someone who makes a choice of wearing a mask or not a mask, and it should be nipped right away when it's heard in our buildings. I don't know, I just have a strong feeling about that. Mr. Hoffman, want to come back to you? Do you have anything to?
I do. First, I'll comment on the policy of allowing people to come and speak. I've heard many times that we're not doctors and we're trying to prescribe masks. We're not prescribing anything. We are not doctors. We don't profess to be. We don't profess to understand all the medical science. Number two, I hear people come in and they're going to read to me what the law is. I have to tell you, I've been an attorney for almost 44 years. So don't tell me I'm a doctor, but also don't come in and try and tell me what the law is. Just personal opinion. With respect to the mask policy, I'm very conflicted. Within the last week, I've had 3 family members contract COVID. One of them is my older brother, who has had several qualifying conditions, so I'm concerned about his well-being. I'm not here to debate the effectiveness of masks, but you can go on the internet and find about anything you want to support your position. But I did read an article this week where there was an extensive study on masks, and they determined that there's a significant benefit to the wearing of masks to prevent COVID. The biggest concern that I have is that as this weather gets colder and we are more inside, the predictions of following last year as well, of increased cases of COVID. I personally would prefer to see the starting date deferred to the beginning of the next semester, which would give us a period of time to see whether or not the greater restriction to indoors is going to have a significant impact on this. Another thing that I read within the last week or so is the fact that they're finding out, notwithstanding the prior belief that there's minimal effect on children from COVID, that they're finding many of the children who have contracted COVID are having long-haul symptoms. So I am one who tends to prefer to err on the side of caution, and I would prefer to see this. I think it's a good recommendation, but I'm not certain that the timing is right. Those are my comments.
I appreciate the boards.
Well, everyone takes
I
it.
appreciate Todd's recommendation.
Well, maybe if anybody's collecting their thoughts and, if anybody's collecting their thoughts and maybe want to make further comment, I do have Brian Smith, who couldn't be here this evening, he did send me a statement and asked me if given the opportunity to read it. So I feel like this is a decent opportunity here. So this is a statement from Brian Smith, unable to make it, but he said, good evening. I wanted to apologize for not being present at tonight's meeting. The timing of my absence was not ideal as important issues were addressed this evening. I felt compelled to provide a statement on certain matters in the agenda this evening. Tonight, I would want the record to reflect that I support the recommendation presented by the superintendent related to Crown Point School COVID protocols. The recommendation sets forth safety and control measures that would reflect the specific circumstances of our community, and even more so the individual schools within our district. It allows for stringent measures such as mandatory masking only when the data related to COVID positivity in our community would support such a move. The recommendation further respects the autonomy of the individual student and parents to make such choices which are appropriate for their child based upon their circumstances. Lastly, with the recent approval of COVID vaccination for individuals 5 to 13 years of age, parents may choose for their children to now be vaccinated if that decision is in their child's or household's best interest. The availability of the vaccine has eased several parents' prior concerns. The objective has always been to keep students in school with as little interruption as possible, to maximize each student's education. Cooperation from parents and students will lead to continued success of our school corporation, for which our community has come to expect. That was from Brian Smith. Well, members of the board want to, if there's nothing else, or Todd, if you don't have any follow-through, we'll take a vote on the recommendation. Todd, is there anything you'd like to add?
You know, the only,
Or Dr. Terrell,
just a
sorry.
couple other things that I'd like to address as well with this. Want to make sure that both our board and our stakeholders understand that we have continued to be in contact with legislators as well, with our health department, trying to gather as much information as possible. Even as recently as Sunday afternoon, I've been communicating with Senator Niemeyer's legislative assistant regarding the vote that's going to take place tomorrow to end the health emergency in the state of Indiana as being recommended, looking at how that's going to impact us. So we continue to work through that. I think other things that our people need to know is, yes, while we are seeing an increase right now, and I could understand why people would be concerned with why are we doing this if that is what we're experiencing. I do believe that the triggers that are in place will help us maneuver through that. Also, though, continuing to look at our own data has been something that we've really been important to us as a corporation as we go throughout this last multiple months dealing with it. And as we've continued to look at our data, we have had mask requirement as minimal as we could per the state's recommendations. And in all of our extracurricular activities, we have not seen increases in positive cases as well, and those are from all of our students not wearing masks. So we do believe that this is a responsible move to do at this time, and we will continue to look at that. And that's not to say that if there are significant changes and things come about in the future, we'll do as we have done up to this point, and that is continue to make the appropriate decisions and take appropriate actions at that time. Appreciate you guys and your support with this and the work that goes into this in our schools, our parents, our students as well.
I have one other comment. Talking about listening to people. We've heard all of the comments from the last several meetings about positions regarding masks. We also received many emails from other parents who don't feel it necessary to come in here and say, yes, we support masks. We've got how many students in our school corporation? Over 9,000, pushing 10,000?
Right at, yep.
Okay. We got the group here that says we're opposed to masks. There's a substantial number of people out there who prefer masks and believe that's in the best interest of their children too. So we take that into consideration as well.
Well, I'll comment on that. The good news is they will still have the ability to wear one.
I understand.
And, so, you know, and like Brian, like Mr. Smith said in his statement, I think he made the point that, you know, families will get to do what they feel is best for their own families. So I appreciate people having the, you know, now everybody has the ability to do that.
Had a thought. Oh, well, something else that I had come across it with our own family in the last couple weeks. Maybe the people that know don't know, but everyone's going to have different opinion on this, but the testing and availability of results seems to have stepped up quite a bit. Yeah, I went to a CVS locally and with a child that wasn't feeling well, and we had a test done in about 15 or 20 minutes. So I think that's actually more, to me, that's a lot more important than maybe other people. But if we are responsible and we, again, continue to try to put this responsibility on our community and the families in our community to think about others when these situations come up, I think that this could be helpful that we have the tests available to us as well. So.
I just have one last comment I just thought of as I was thinking through the comments that were made this evening. That is, those of you who are concerned about us distributing or giving out vaccinations in our buildings, in our school buildings, and therefore feeling the need to turn in the notarized document saying that your child should not receive vaccinations in school, that is absolutely your responsibility as parents. We will not, in our schools, try to convince you to get them vaccinated or take that upon ourselves to do. I mean, that's just, in my mind, that's unthinkable. It's not something that we will ever pursue here in our district. And I can't imagine across the state of Indiana that would ever get to the point where they're trying to vaccinate kids in schools without parents' permissions. I understand the idea of clinics and vaccination clinics. We're not going there either. But just so you guys understand I appreciate where you're coming from. At the same time, though, I think it's important that we just say that if you go to our website underneath the COVID tab, you'll find more information regarding that. Our statement is there regarding vaccination clinics and what we do and don't do, just so that way you can have a resource to go to for information with that. Thank you.
Okay, last call for a conversation on COVID policy. We'll look for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. Move to 5.2. Approval to apply for and receive the Governor Emergency Education Relief Fund. Mr. Hardman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeking your approval this evening to apply for and receive funding from the Government Emergency Education Relief Fund. This is in the amount of $91,198. This money was spent actually last year when we were either in our hybrid or in a distance learning mode, and we provided Khajiit hotspots to students so that they could access the internet. And then we also purchased iPads with the money to support our early childhood students who had special needs for delivery of remote instruction and related services. Seeking your approval tonight to apply for and receive the funding.
Thank you, Mr. Hardman. You heard the recommendation approved to apply for and receive funding for the Governor Emergency Education Relief Fund grant in the amount of $91,198. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Hoffman. Any questions or comments for Mr. Hardman?
Do we collect the non-public school funds and then distribute those?
Yes, we did.
Any other questions for Mr. Hardman? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 5.3, the 2021-22 revision of the Crown Point High School textbook rental and supply fees. Mr. Hardman.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Once again, we have a change in the Crown Point High School textbook rental fee for one of the courses. We actually are going to have a lower amount for the consumable fee because the book is at a lower price. Seeking your approval of the change for an American literature consumable from $17.36 to $13.63. We're seeking your approval of that to the Crown Point High School textbook rental and supply fee.
Thank you, Mr. Hardman. You heard the recommendation to approve the 2021-22 Crown Point High School textbook rental and supply fee revision. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments from Mr. Hardman on the recommendation? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Then we have interactive panels from Winfield. Mr. Hardman.
Yes, thank you. Last month, October 25th, you approved a vendor for the purchase of equipment, which included the interactive panels, document cameras, webcams, and adjustable mounts for Winfield. And on November the 18th, the vendor responded to Mr. Gill that they were not able to fulfill this obligation. Therefore, we're coming to you this evening with the second vendor on the list, which was Tri Electronics, to fulfill the equipment as well as the installation. And the amount of this is $306,207.25, which is around $4,000 higher than what the earlier vendor was. Seeking your approval for Tri Electronics to be the vendor of the purchase and installation.
You've heard the recommendation from Mr. Hartman to approve the purchase of 50 ClearTouch 86-inch interactive panels, document cameras, webcams, and adjustable mount carts from Tri Electronics at an amount of $306,207.25. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Hoffman. Any questions or comments from Mr. Hartman?
Any chance that the savings from the previous reduction in textbook fees will help pay for that?
It's a different account.
Once we get 3,000 people to take American literature, maybe that right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 4-0. And we have resolution number 808, additional appropriation. Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Warney and members of the board. Tonight I bring before you for your consideration Resolution 808, which is an additional appropriation resolution. Back on May 24th, you conducted a public hearing that was duly appropriately advertised. It's the appropriation process for the construction projects that are upcoming. This resolution also is retroactive back to that May 24th date and the date of the hearing. I'm recommending approval of the additional appropriation resolution 808 and recommend waiving the reading of.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. You heard the recommendation to approve the resolution 808 and additional appropriations and waive the reading. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve retroactive to May 24, 2021. Waive the reading.
Second that motion?
Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And back to Mr. Reese for the Crown Point High School renovation bid package.
Thank you. On November 11th, we received 47 bids in over 15 categories for the Crown Point High School addition and renovations project. The total award did come in under budget by a little over $2 million. We are recommending tonight those 15 contracts to the various contractors for a total amount of $43,046.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. I think it's not appropriate if I don't read this entire recommendation here. You've heard the recommendation to approve the contracts for the Crown Point High School additions and renovations as follows. General trades to Larson Danielson in the amount of $12,246,000. For masonry to Zilkowski Construction in the amount of $3,666,283. For roofing to Corellis Roofing in the amount of $4,738,034. For aluminum and trances, glazing to Lazaro Companies in the amount of $741,400. For metal studs, drywall ceilings to Goff Incorporated in the amount of $1,591,000. For painting to Esteban and Sons in the amount of $467,620. For hard tile to Art Mosaic and Tile in the amount of $466,790. For carpet and resilient flooring to Midwest Tile and Interiors in the amount of $446,710. For sports flooring to Kiefer USA in the amount of $898,500. For casework to Lee Company in the amount of $730,830. For food services to C&T Design in the amount of $759,585. And for fire protection to Ryan Fire Protection in the amount of $566,835. Plumbing to Gatlin Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $1,177,559. For mechanical to Gatlin Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $9,694,100. And for electrical to Continental Electric in the amount of $4,808,800. Sorry, I just felt like it was appropriate to read that recommendation in full. Do we have any questions, or do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman. second by Mr. Babjack. Questions or comments for Mr. Reed?
Comment that I appreciate the inclusion in the recommendation that either Skillman or the school corporation has had extensive experience with all the low bidders and is confident that they can successfully perform the work as prescribed, since that's typically one of my questions, so.
Man, I know Dion's not here, but do you know, based on just what's going on with getting supplies, things like that, as far as we know, no hold up on what we're doing with these projects, or is that a question for Dion?
I'll let Dr. Terrell take that one.
Yeah, so I have been working very closely with Dion and Scott Sherry from Skillman, reviewing the process as we've gone through. There are challenges with that. One of the advantages and one of the reasons why we did not break up our bond sale into two different sales and went with one was so that we could have that money readily available right now to go ahead and place those orders and have those orders here. The other part is because the site where we are building TAF is such that we have additional space that's not being utilized with the building construction right now, we're able to take delivery of those items as we order them, which is one of the big advantages to what we're doing as we move forward with it. So according to Dion, he feels like the ordering will be such that we'll be able to get it in as we need it or have it already there as we're ready to move forward with it. They've taken a great approach to not just doing the concrete work first and then the structural, but doing it as they go at the same time. And I think it's really going to be advantageous for us as far as meeting our deadlines. So all that to say, I feel like we're going to be in a good spot even with the challenges we're facing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 4-0. All right, thank you, Mr. Reese. And then information items this evening, we have superintendent discussion groups. Usually Brian Smith gives us an update out of Cedar Lake, but without him being there. Mr. Hoffman, anything from Winfield or Crown Point?
Crown Point business pretty much as usual, continuing to issue facade grants, and some of them are becoming quite visible around the square area in downtown, so continuing to do paving projects. So.
Doctor, did we mention it last meeting? Did we notice some of the athletes up around the square on banners? Was that
I don't believe
did
so.
anybody else notice that?
Yes.
And that was something that had been discussed with the city to team up with them. I don't know how that was funded
Yeah, I'm
or
not sure.
provided, but it's something that Mr. Smith and I were having comments with the city at some point about trying to team up and get that opportunity out there. So it was nice to see. I also noticed an article in the paper that hopefully that 109th is going to be opening up soon.
December 15th.
And all you guys from Winfield are counting down that day, right?
Just the I-65 exit alone for myself.
Yeah, same from in town. Nothing else, Mr. Hoffman?
Nothing else.
All right, thank you. See what our lineup is this evening. I say it all in the right order. We have Director of Elementary Education, Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. I'm going to keep my comments very brief as Mr. Gianfermi has some CPHS renovation overviews to share, which will be enthralling. So I don't want to upstage him. I would like to thank Anna Retzlaff, our ELL district specialist, for organizing and hosting our first K-5 ELL Biliteracy Night in partnership with the public library that occurred last week and was a great opportunity for our families to not only gather at the public library, but to take a trip around the world in a literacy format. So I appreciate her efforts and the team's efforts from our ELL members. I'd also like to thank the philanthropy that occurs in our buildings. At the elementary level, I am just astounded by the work that these young students are doing to demonstrate their generosity and citizenship. As you see, us going into the Thanksgiving and holiday season, our schools are really abounding with opportunities for food drives, clothing drives, and angel trees. And I just believe that this is a true reflection of our youngest citizens who will become productive members down the road, and the importance of what we are helping them see as their role in helping those who are in need. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. And Director of Secondary Education, Mr. Gianfermi.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. Tonight, Dr. Terrell has asked me to share with you, and if Mr. Gill could bring up a PowerPoint that will kind of show you exactly what you've just kind of approved money-wise for the expansion at Crown Point High School. Did we?
You need to look.
timeout. Okay, I gotta get up. So this will be a little bit more lengthy than usual.
Just so you know, we'll be sharing this tomorrow morning with the teachers and staff members at the high school as well.
Here or there, okay, I'm gonna go back to my seat. You wanna put it on the correct side? What's that? Oh, yeah, put it this. Okay. You don't mind if I just stay right here? I'll do it, okay. All right, so we know expansion happens, and you can see our old high school from where we first started, apartments, and then the old high school where Colonel Wheeler stands, and then, you know, our current high school, which is approaching 20 years. 20 years is coming up real close, but we are now moving towards where we have to expand to house 3,600 students. So as we sat down and started talking to Gibraltar and Skillman, and we started talking with our administrators, and of course you as the board, we had a criteria when we worked with our designers, and there it is up there for everybody to see. We have to move to be able to house up to 3,600 students. This is adding new classrooms, some of those classrooms being science labs. Have to expand our cafeteria because you can only have so many lunches per day, so we want to make sure we have enough room in there for our kids. Want to add to our robotics area, which is our STEM area of engineering, science, technology, and mathematics, and take those programs into kind of some new heights as we move forward with that. Lockers and commons areas and circulation because a lot of the congestion. I spent 10 years of my administrative career at that high school and loved it, but it was very, very crowded back then, and it's even more crowded now. So that wasn't taken into consideration. To repurpose our career and technical education program spaces as we start to expand those because of graduation pathways that students will be taking. Redesign our administrative and guidance offices so that we can kind of change the operation of communication as that works. Repurpose and underutilized courtyard space, and you'll see what we were looking to do with that. And then to take the opportunity to increase our life fitness, athletic, and training and PE programs. So to see what all that $43 million starts getting us just in the building here, if you look at this overview of the building, anything that is kind of in yellowish orange, that's going to be repurposed spaces that we already have. Anything in red will be an addition that we'll be putting towards our building. So let's just start with where our classroom additions will be. This is directly across from where our tennis courts are right now. The arrow's pointing right down where you see. This is where we're going to have an addition of 18 classrooms on the first floor, and then another 10, some of them being science labs, up on the top floor, second floor. Let's just look at the first floor first. You see we can add a lot of classrooms. And this is all done with Gibraltar design, where you start kind of projecting how many sections you'll need in math and science and language arts. And so that's where you come up with the number of classrooms you need. But this is a pretty big expansion that we'll be putting in. You can see just a little interesting piece there. Directly across from the tennis courts, we're going to have a walk that will go into some exterior entrance bathrooms, so that we've always had an issue where when we're having a tennis match, people have to go into the buildings, and it creates a security issue. This way we'll be able to do that with no problems. Above these new additions, these classrooms, you can see that we have to kind of repurpose our fax department. That commons locker area right now, that's where you enter on that side of the building, south end of the building. So once that gets taken back down, we have to rebuild our fax lab where we have our early childhood lab on to the right of that side. And then on the end of it, we have a world language lab, room right now that will get repurposed to a fax room, and you'll have a new entrance that you can come in through that hallway there. So trying to kind of answer all the questions that we have here. Also in our auto area there, we're going to repurpose the classroom and some storage there so that that will be a better space for the kids when they're not actually in the lab. If you kind of stand on the first floor, I'm gonna start in the E-wing, that's towards the top of this picture. Really, the biggest repurposing piece in the E-wing is that corner room where it says 3D art. Right now, that's a science lab, and we're gonna create that into a art room because we're gonna move all of our science department will be upstairs after this renovation is done. The other pieces will not really be renovated. We thought about that a little bit, but the graphics lab and the other 3D art room will stay the same. If you move down towards the, where it says the media center, we are going to be building some additional classrooms to the north of the media center. Right now, there's one exceptional education classroom there. We're going to add another one because we're going to move one of those, and it's kind of one of our continuum rooms where you need some self-contained areas. And then to the south of that, we'll have another exceptional learners classroom repurposed, and then our TV studio will move to that south end of the media center. Media center will be repurposed, got some pictures of what that will look like. Now across the hall from that, we're gonna put in a Project Lead the Way lab, which is really robotics and engineering. There'll be computer labs on each side of that. And then across that narrow hallway, we're gonna repurpose a room that we currently have into another CTE or career and technical education kind of lab that we can grow into as our programs continue to grow. So from the outside, when you're looking, if you were looking across from the tennis courts, this was the elevation what it will look like. There's the existing view right now in the right-hand corner. And this is kind of what that hallway to the media center on the east side, this is the new main entrance to the media center and what it's going to look like. And it's going to be wider. Right now, it's a very narrow hall, very difficult to get through. We're going to widen that up, and it'll be a place where you can enter there, and then right across from it, you'll have your Project Lead the Way lab. This is the interior of the media center. The circulation desk will move from where it currently is, and this is if you were looking east. You'll have what they call those storefront window walls where you can kind of see in, still make it kind of open feeling. This one kind of shows you the media center on the top picture. We're still going to have those windows up high. So when you cross, there will be a hallway, and I'll show you that later when we talk about the second floor. You can cross there. You can still look down into the media center. We'll still have natural lighting going into our media center, which was something we asked the designers to keep. This is a view of the Project Lead the Way lab. So across from the media center, again, all glass wall that you can look right in there. So you can see there's kind of a depiction of what might be a little robotics tournament arena area. You could have it right in there. They can also create a lot of the robotics things that they're doing. And then there's the rest of the picture of what the lab looks. It's pretty substantial. So you can have a lot of things happening. All right, if we move to the north side of the building for the performing arts, what we really needed there is we needed some storage space. Currently, we have a trailer that kind of sticks out from that area. It's a nice looking trailer, has, you know, theater piece on it, but it's a trailer nonetheless. So what is currently our black box where we do a lot of rehearsal and practice back there, and Mr. Degenhardt's classes back there as well, that will become storage. It has a very high ceiling, over 15 feet high, so we can create a lot of storage back there for him. Then we will repurpose his classroom and the rehearsal classroom with a couple more storage areas that will be across from where the orchestra room is right now. So, and it will be flush with the building. So when you look at it, it'll look kind of like it was always there. But it will create a lot of that storage that our performing arts area has needed for a long while. If we move over into the PE athletic training area, you can see that this part we are going to add some kind of fitness areas where we'll have an additional piece of, like almost an extension of a field house, if you will, and then we'll move our weight lifting area there for athletics and our weight development classes, which are packed and cannot fit in what is now currently the fitness center anymore. There's just not enough room there. We'll repurpose where the weightlifting was into a fitness center, which will have mostly cardio equipment in there, and then there will also be an additional health classroom that will be put in there. There will be south of the pool, we'll be able to put in a locker room. You'll have an additional weight room, which is much larger and will accommodate way more students and athletes. And then we'll also be able to put this indoor turf field to the next of it, which is kind of an expansion of our field house. This is kind of the view. If you look at the bottom, that's the view of like when you're leaving the stadium. This is what people would be walking past. Again, taking into consideration that we don't want something that looks like it was slapped on there. We want it to flow with the rest of the building, and that will look really nice, and it'll look like it was always there. This is another view of it from the parking lot. This is kind of the interior view, so you can just kind of get a feel of what the field turf would be next to all the weightlifting equipment, and there's a barrier that comes down when they need to separate the two areas. Okay, and then we move into the courtyard. We all know that the courtyard is a big piece. Yes, Mr. Hoffman. It's pretty high, yeah. Kind of like the field house, real similar to that. So in the courtyard, this was a place that, you know, at first it's really kind of tricky. We were worried about trying to get in there to build, but Skillman has come up with a lot of really great ways to do this and cost effective because it's a space that's not utilized enough. So in that area, if the way you kind of look at this, and you got to kind of imagine, it's tough, you all been in the building enough, right where it says cafeteria expansion, to the right of that is the elevator. And that is one thing you really don't want to change around much, I guess, I learned from the designers, as an elevator, because it's very costly. So we kind of took it all the way up to there. And where it says cafeteria expansion is really where your administrative offices are right now, and the nurse's office. So the red is building into the courtyard. So with the existing part there, which will be the counselors and admins' offices, along with social workers and conference rooms and career conference rooms that we have, and the clinic. The red part will be, which is currently into the courtyard, and we'll add a large group instruction room there as well. As we expand, we need more large areas. And as you know, we have a lot of classes that meet in our large group instruction rooms now, kind of like advanced bio and things like that, where you almost have kind of that college lecture feel to it. So this will be a highly utilized area. But it allows our counselors and our administrators to kind of physically do what they're trying to do right now, is they're trying to work around teams, around alphabets of students. So you have a couple counselors, an administrator, an interventionist. They all can be in one area, and we work with those same students for 4 years, and they'll have the same people that they're working with. The cafeteria expansion was very tricky because you have to have an area that is larger, and you want to be able to see it all. So here's kind of a picture of when those administrative offices are moved. You can see where you're going to be able to see right through that hallway there. There's another look in there, and there'll be a large hallway that kids can get back and forth from. It kind of shows you how the stairs will look there. The south end of the cafeteria, which we always refer to as the new part of the cafeteria, even though it's 13 years old or whatever. That south end will now be a satellite kitchen where students will also be able to pick up their lunch. So that will help the flow, because anyone that's ever been there, that at lunchtime, all the kids are crammed to one side on the north side trying to get their lunch, and kids are trying to get across the high school hallways there, and it's very congested. So with this opening of the middle of it, with the satellite kitchen to the south, the traffic flow should be much better for the students as they're moving across there. So then if we move up to the upstairs views, you can see that the second floor, again, the middle of our expansion, of classroom expansion, is all science rooms in the middle. We're able to get all of our science programs upstairs now, so they can be together as a department. Over on the upper left side there, we have 2 more science rooms, plus a CNN lab that CNA lab that we are going to try to develop that program, medical program, that we already have some of our things, biology programs that we're moving forward with. So in that expansion between that lab and where it kind of has the X there is where this hallway, which never existed upstairs before, will give us a third hallway in which students can get a flow across the building. And there's those windows that will look down into the media center. So we're hoping that this will help with congestion flow as well. So with all that being said, that's the start. This starts December 17th, so we thought we want to show people kind of what we landed. We'll be at the high school tomorrow, make sure the faculty knows coming. We worked with the faculty, with the department chairs, with the teachers, with the administration, countless meetings with them back and forth, and then a lot of communication with the designers to try to get them everything they want to get. But December 17th it starts. So that's what we got. Any questions? I tried to do that as fast as I could, guys. I know it's been a long meeting. So.
When does it finish?
What's that?
When are they scheduled to finish by?
Oh,
Go into 2024.
a lot.
To give you an idea, we're opening Taft in August of '23. This will go in through most likely the summer of '24 to finish up everything that'll be a part of it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Only want to get a round of applause, Mark.
Director of Exceptional Education, Ms. Paskus.
Good evening, President Warney, members of the board. Just a quick update on an exciting event that gets to return tomorrow. Wheeler Middle School, our 3 applied skills classrooms, in cooperation with their peer mentors, our speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, for days and weeks ahead of Thanksgiving, prepare a feast for the whole staff at Wheeler, as well as some of us housed over at the Learning Center. So students have been picking recipes, they went grocery shopping, and they've been working on preparing the meal. So if you're around Wheeler at lunchtime tomorrow, please stop by.
What are the times of that exactly?
Whatever the lunch times are at the middle school. I just walk over.
Just don't want to
when I'm
miss, you
hungry.
know. 11:50. There we go.
Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Hardman.
Thank you, Mr. Warney. A couple of things. As we approach December, we start thinking about the 2022-23 school year. There's transitions that are beginning to be planned for. Incoming kindergarten students, we're looking at a February, I think 20, let me get it here. Yeah, somewhere middle of February, I believe, 2022. So we're planning the communication, advertising to parents that will be going out with Brooke. And then also a transition from the middle school to high school for our students. We actually will begin in December some sessions where high school teachers will be coming to the middle level to introduce some programming because they will be moving through their scheduling. At the end of January, there will be a parent meeting, and then by the end of February, we hope to have initial schedules for our incoming 9th grade students coming. So transitions are happening, and we're in the midst of the 2021-22 school year, but eyes are still looking ahead to 22 and 23. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hardman. Chief Human Resource Officer, Mr. Akiwa.
Thank you, Mr. Warney, and members of the board. Just one quick item. We're starting to enter foul weather season, if you will, right now. And with our employees and all of our staff members, and I guess for families as well, we just like to encourage everybody to make sure your RDS contact information is up to date so that if we need to get a hold of you with any emergency information, we've got accurate info in RDS. We're also encouraging all of our employees to take your time, leave earlier. As we say, as the conditions change outside, walk like a penguin. Which is really when moving from place to place, you want to make sure that you're not in a hurry, you're not rushed, you're not carrying too many things, and you're slowing down your pace. And I think something else that goes along with that is more folks become car riders and fewer folks become walkers. Just reminding everybody to practice patience as we enter into the season where everything just slows down a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Akiwa. Business Department, Mr. Reese.
I have no report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director of Communications, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to extend a thank you to those of you that could attend the groundbreaking ceremony at Taft. It was cold, but I think the students had fun. In particular, I want to thank Dion and Will from Skillman, who went above and beyond in making sure that we had supplies that we needed and setting up the site, which included pouring a gravel path that morning so no one had to walk in any mud. Another update, as we prepare for kindergarten pre-registration, we are going to make the We Are CP newsletter that went out over the summer a twice-a-year publication. So we'll have a summer version And now we'll also have a winter version that will announce kindergarten pre-registration and arrive hopefully in early February.
Thank you. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Terrell.
So coming into Thanksgiving, I'd be remiss if I didn't have a list of thank yous. It's been a tough year, tough 18 months, coming up on 24 months quickly here. I want to thank our teachers and support staff and administrators for their work with our students. Thank our students for your ability to continually adjust. Want to thank our parents for their support of their children and understand that each and every parent only wants what's best for our kids, and we appreciate that. And then thank you to our board for your continued support and leadership here within our district as we continue to move forward in spite of the challenges that we face as a community and as a society over the last year or more. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. Other business of the Board of School Trustees. Anybody have any other business to discuss, or just open discussion for a few minutes before we move on?
I would just like to say, obviously, the four of us and Brian included, we all have different opinions on things. We all have different thoughts, beliefs, but we make it work as a board. And a lot of people out there don't realize that obviously this is our only job based on what you do get paid. We are elected by you taxpayers and you residents, so we do take that to heart. And once again, I've said this in many meetings here in the past, we have what's best for your kids at heart, and that's what our goal is when you take this oath of office, is to make sure you're providing the best education possible in a safe environment. And that includes looking after your taxpayer dollars, it includes taking care of employees, and making sure all that's done. And when you're meeting once a month, and I can tell you that hasn't happened since COVID hit, there's plenty of conversations, plenty of emails to read, and additional things that have been required, and I don't think one of us dislikes it, and it's a task, and especially no one ever, obviously this is said over and over again, no one ever anticipated anything like this. I can tell you that when I got on the board 16 years ago. And we are doing, even though it may not seem to some of you, we are doing the best of our ability, making it work with our administrative team and Dr. Terrell. And I would just pass along thanks again to them, because that obviously adds extra burden to them besides the regular daily jobs that they have to do, and actual description of a regular job, and add that additional work based on the COVID and how it's impacted them. Kudos to them for going up and beyond and making it work for your children and everybody involved with the school corporation. And that includes the teachers union. I saw you there, Denise, so thank you.
Next.
No, I just kind of add to that, Scott, that, it doesn't stop, right? So we made a change tonight that's going to invoke a different group of people that are going to have concerns and complaints, so it's just going to shift. But my point of bringing that up is we're always trying to do what's best for the kids, and that's something that Mr. Angel says all the time, and if you keep that first and forefront of your mind, you act on that alone. It makes it pretty simple. So that being said, I feel like this group always is looking to do things better. There was a gentleman here with the cool coat, I forgot your name, the snazzy jacket there, brought up a good idea for, process improvement. We are in a bind with where we put the comment period, because certainly if we would have moved the consent agenda up in front of the comment period, that would have been a disaster. But I want to remind people publicly that it was probably, I'm taking a stab at the time frame, but it's probably been a year, but it's definitely been this elected board that changed the policy to allow people to speak about items that were not on the agenda.
It was on my list of things to mention as well.
All right, that
We
saved you
used
some
to-
time.
The wording used to be, you could comment on agenda items only, and it got changed to educational issues, broadened the opportunity for public comment.
Exactly, so it was, there would have been, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, there wouldn't have been any opportunity for people to speak about their mask opinion one way or the other. Or for people to give personal accounts of things that may have happened to them. So that being said, I think I appreciate the the input, because I feel that you were definitely trying to, in your concern in trying to help make things better. So I do appreciate that. That's it. I think yep, that's it.
Mr. Hoffman, I have a few things. You want me to go first? You have anything?
I just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, man.
Simple as that.
Is that this week?
For the other business topic, Dr. Terrell, I think that'd be in all of our best interest to get on track with a board retreat against here. I think Mr. Hoffman and I spoke about that. Maybe tagging a date in February, possibly March. Guys, any thoughts? I think the retreat, in my opinion, and this is just like throwing out some conversation right here while we're all together. In my opinion, I think we've done it in the past where we've come in and sat down and we've had presentation after presentation after presentation. That there's appropriate time for that, and maybe some categories that will be what, maybe we can submit a list of things that we find as a priority that we need to talk about, and then Dr. Terrell, you could put together the people to present if necessary. But I would view this as a lengthy 3 or 4 hour session that we have a lot of new roles in our cabinet, Ms. Pascas, Ramirez, Gianfermi, Ms. Allen, that not so much a presentation. Sure, if there's something of importance that they'd like to bring to us, but we don't get much of an opportunity to have a conversation. Hey, so that was really neat what you did with this. How about that? Or how about this? And if that's not right, I get it, and whatever, anyone could explain to me that that's not the proper way to do it, but we've never done it that way before, so I think it'd be kind of interesting to just give that a try. I mean, you talk about 3 to 4 hours. I know we could talk to Ms. Pascas for 3 hours alone, right? I mean, so.
As long as we turn up the heat.
But Mr. Hoffman, you mentioned something the other day. You and I were talking about, potentially honoring, but that could be a topic that, I think all these things that we, in passing, kind of, hey, this might be a neat idea, or this school corporation down south is doing that. I would like to just maybe ask you guys to submit a list, myself included, to Dr. Terrell of things that are of importance. A little bit of demographer talk. We don't need a professional demographer in here to do it, but we could just talk with what we see with our eyes. Hey, this area is blowing up. What are we going to do about the school? Or cafeteria sizes in schools that are getting touched on that we didn't speak of. I had a couple things. Important. I think we need to ask Mr. Reese to sit down at this retreat and dedicate a good amount of time to the long-term budget. We've been, we're spending a lot of money, and we have that the funding and the financing and the bonds to be able to do this. But I think that's part of the retreat that would be very important. So I think that's it for that.
And this will go on. And just to clarify for the people that are in the room and anybody that might be watching, our retreat that we call it takes place in this building. It's not a
correct.
We do not.
That's
it's
right.
not a vacation destination. There's no taxpayer
hot dogs and 4 hours old coffee, or not hot dogs, donuts.
Aruba destination.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, not the day to be talking about a retreat, but just wanted to clarify that.
This may be more of a concern of a board statements appreciation later, but so either Mr. Akiwa or Gianfermi, anybody, the daughters are in the back of the car the other day, and there's this 3-word something another that the unfortunate circumstances of an intruder in our buildings. There's a new phrase that they're taught, and anybody know that off the tip of their tongue? No? Well, my point of bringing it up was I'm driving, and they're in the back seat, like, just keep repeating this, and the light bulb went off on my head that there must have been some training take place in the elementary school in case there were potentially an intruder. It's sad to discuss it, but I want to say thank you that, whoever was in charge of showing them that week or that day, it really stuck, and it was catchy, and anyone in the elementary would know what I'm talking about. But it's one of those things that's sad that we have to have the practice take place, but at the same time, because we're fortunate that it's being done in a way that the children are reactive to it and listening. My last comment on the, just circling back and not to beat a dead horse, but as we move to approve the recommendation on the COVID policy, I feel like I've sat here as a board member for 5 months, and many times probably people don't know what I'm thinking. Which way is he leaning tonight, or where's he going with this? And I somewhat still feel that way, but that's why I wanted to hit on that 2% trigger, because I think it's really important that when you look at a school right now that might be at 10 students that are positive, and at a number of 14 or 15, they're going to be required to wear masks. So if you are on the fence about what the right thing is to do, whether we should be in masks or not, if we continue to live in this world where there's only 4 students out of 400 in a school that are positive, that's a pretty darn good thing. So let's just keep rooting for that. 2%, I feel like it's a really, it's numbers we've heard around the state. You didn't just pull this out of a hat, but it gave me a peace of mind to approve the recommendation and not just do it like wavering, but with some confidence that, well, if things go bad, we're going to be triggered out of this pretty darn quick. And it also gave me a peace of mind. Mr. Hoffman and I did speak about the when to start it, whether we should be, next week, December 6th, end of the semester. And that also kind of gave me the peace of mind to go with the December 6th date, because you know what, by the following week, the 13th, we're going to be in school for 1 more week, and if the numbers jump, we're going to get some data, and we're going to know how to handle things pretty quickly. And if God forbid things are bad and this COVID continues to spread aggressively, well, then we're just going to be back in masks again, and everyone could have their arguments and debate with one another whether or not effective, and it will be out of our hands. We set our trigger point, and we could have a good peace of mind about that. The other topic tonight that Dr. Charles is going to ask you to think about and inform us at a later time, when there is some further information shared or gathered or whatever about resignations and the process. If you'd like to include one of us, please let me know, and I'll find somebody to be there for you, whether it be me or someone else who wants to do it. If we're not to be included, then we're not to be included. But if you'd like us to be, we'll certainly make sure somebody's available for you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, that's it for me. Anybody else on other business? How about board statements of appreciation and recognition?
Nothing for me tonight.
Mr. Hoffman?
My vote notwithstanding, I do want to recognize the administration for their effort in putting together the recommendation regarding the mask policy. It's not very often that I go against the recommendation of the administration. This is the first time since Dr. Carroll has been here, and only a handful of times under the previous administration have I not gone along with the majority. So I do appreciate the work that went into making that recommendation. I do appreciate the continuing effort to monitor the situation and overall give this administration extremely high marks for its COVID policies and monitoring.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Angel, any statements of appreciation this evening?
No, other than Mr. Hoffman's sentiments and happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and hopefully they have a wonderful and blessed holiday.
And like I said, I want to recognize the continuous training of safety training in our schools. And gosh, we talk about sports a lot at this board with the performance that we continue to have in Crown Point athletics. And we try to acknowledge as much as we can also the band, the orchestra, and the choir. But without any specifics, they're just doing an excellent job. That whole group, the musical group, to be at a basketball game and to feel like you're at the United Center is pretty impressive. So kudos to them. Keep up the good work. I think that they, we try to thank them, and the community tries to thank them, but they can't be thanked enough for the progress they're making, certainly in the last 20 years, and what they can do at those events.
Before you get ready, did you skip over Dr. Terrell?
No.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure.
I got it tonight. I'm still shaking here because it's so cold in this seat. Everyone probably thinks I'm freezing. Okay, any last words of appreciation, other business? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Babjak. All those in favor signify by saying aye.